Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. My name is Siti Razma binti bin Sahun. My number metric is BB 2011058987. Today I'm going to present about the Germany Historical School. First of all, the historical background of the school. Okay, Germany History School began in the 1814, same with the publications of the Friedrich List and Wilhelm Roscher. Okay, and its end in 1970 when Gustav Smoller died. Okay, some of the ideas from this school are generally absorbed by the economists. Okay, and Germany Historical School economists respond that government assistance was required for it, okay, to catch up it, because Germany was the one of the mid 19th century which is far behind England in the development of the industry. Okay, in that time, German was a weak country and separated or divided by a strong nations like Britain and Russia. Because of a German still stick with under the stigma of the losing in the World War One, and that's make Germany want to unification and constitutional reform, but guess for the nation unified was not success for the half century. When a minor revolutions outburst were repressed from 1813 to 1832 in Germany, there is a major upheaval in 1848, which is caused by the Prussians and the Austrian stop. It's make Prussians become the largest, the richest, and most militaristic, and also the most powerful state in Germany. So German slowly become strong because of the Prussian. After that, the social legislations express the paternalism of the monarchy and arose by loyalty and the patriotism among the Germany worker. Okay, they claim king is the one who make the revolution, because a certain economic institutions of the 19th century, okay, Germany different substantially, so it's make different economies ideology exist and arose in that time. Okay, where there is a mercantilist where regulations persisted in the Germany at least until the formation of the empire in 1871, and after that there is a classical economy were took the granted in their economics analysis were severely restrict in the Germany, because at the time there is a competition and the freedom enterprise. After the large bureaucracy that administered and regulated the main fault phases of the German economic life, show that English theory is inapplicate, okay, the German situations. Okay, in short, the system. Okay, in short, the Germany Historical School show the rationalism and deepen the German way life by questioning the relevance of British classical economist doctrine history, and it show how Germany established the German historical school by changing their pattern and promote the industrial growth with with combined all the nationalism, the patriotism, the militarism, the paternalism, and devotion of the duty, also hard work and massive government intervention together. That's all.
Hello, my name is Siti Rokia binti Dahran and I'm going to present about major tenets of the German historical school. In German historical economics, there are four principal basic thinking. First, society is dynamic, evolving. This historical school has been applied a dynamic, evolutionary perspective in its study of society. This will be concentrated on cumulative development and growth. An analogy was sometimes drawn to Darwin's evolutionism in biology, that is, the social organism is born, develops, and grows, that will finally decays and dies. Society also constantly changing. However, the relevant economic doctrine for one country at a time may be irrelevant for another country or another age. So this relativistic approach was especially useful in attacking classical economics as being unsuitable in Germany. Besides that, it is also emphasis on the aggressive positive role for government. This historical school was nationalistic, whereas classical economics was individualistic and cosmopolitan. So, if the social organism is the center of study and force for dynamic movement, then society and the state occupy the center of the stage rather than the individual. It was stated that fostered industry, transportation, and economic growth in Germany. Not only that, in the process of defending a unified economy, it was easy to develop an ardent nationalistic glorification of the state. The historical school gave great prominence to the need for state intervention in economic affairs and emphasized that the community got its own interests that are quite distinct from those of the individual. Inductive or historical approach also has included in the major tenets. The economists of the historical school emphasized the importance of studying the economic historically as a part of an integrated whole. The historical school also criticized the abstract, deductive, static, unrealistic, and historical qualities of classical and marginalist methodology. It is because it undertook massive inductive studies using primary source material and studying changing social institutions. The school claimed that its historical method allowed it to study all the forces of an economic phenomenon, all the facets of economic behavior, not merely their economic logic. Some of the school also rejected the universal validity of economic theorems. They saw economics as resulting from careful empirical and historical analysis instead of from logic and mathematics. Finally, it is also including the advocates of socially conservative reform. Political economy said the historical economists must not merely analyze motives that prompt economic activity, but must weigh and compare the moral merit of these actions and their outcomes. It is also must determine a standard of the proper production and distribution of wealth so that the demands of justice and morality are satisfied. The historical economists thought the German state should be entrusted with the amelioration of conditions for the common man. So this would strengthen the loyalty to the state while it safeguarded the health, well-being, and efficiency of factory workers. They also hope that this will divert the working class from socialistic ideology. The advocates of moderate social changes were dubbed socialists of the chair, a reference to the academic positions they held.
I would like to talk about the major questions about whom did the German historical school benefit or seek to benefit. Firstly, the members of the German historical school benefit themselves. They enjoy close and friendly relations with government officials and rose to dominant positions in academic life. In fact, the German government controls most universities, and Gustav Schmuller, known as the Professor Maker, controls a majority of the academic appointments in Germany through its influence at the Prussian Ministry of Education. His students and followers were placed in academic posts, whereas the German adherents of the Austrian marginalist school were excluded from university positions. The historical school also benefited the German imperial government by defending its role in a nationalistic state. Next, the historical economists served the dominant business, financial, and landowning groups by promoting moderate reform that frustrated the drive for a more radical democratization of society. Instead of the poor and lowly fighting and winning their own battle for improvements, concessions were given to them by a paternalistic state. As a result, servility, nationalism, and loyalty to the regime were more widespread in Germany than anywhere else. That's it. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum and hi. My name is Siti Nur Syakina binti Matarbain and my metric number is BB20110355. I will present about the fourth major questions, which is how was the historical school valid and useful or correct in its time in terms of German historical school. This is the historical school was correct in its perspective that economists must familiarize on their own with changing history and changing environment. With economic also the social evolution to understand the present world. Factual studies have been authorized. New theories and new ideas had to be conveyed in order to understand the unfamiliar challenge. The use of empiric data required careful testing of these new theories and ideas.
Assalamualaikum and hi, my name is Siti Nurazela binti Bainan Najal. In this video, I would like to talk about my part, which is tenets of the school became lasting contribution. Firstly, when the economists of different persuasions accepted that historical empirical studies were needed to clarify the missions of the German historical school, and the task was complete. This is required to present checking old ideas and developing new ones. Nowadays, normally economists as compared to scrutinizing data gleaned from the distant past to look for the most recent statistical data available for their test their theory. As early 1890, John Keynes point this fact out, which it is much more important to remember that the study of the past is less useful for the solving problems, present day problems, only because of the evolution of industrial structures and the changing nature of economic conditions on which of the historical school of economics insists so much. Next is political economy should never become a science that is specifically historical. Therefore, if the structure, producers, and circumstances do not adjust for any cause other than that, a method of investigation other than the historical must be the necessary for a great deal of our economic work. Its assault on laissez-faire was another important contribution from the historical school. Historical school's members acknowledged that unregulated free competition would not always provide society as a whole with the best possible outcomes. And that's all. Thank you.
Next, I will present about the first major figures in German historical school, which is Friedrich List. It is about the significance of their contribution to the school of thought during their era. His full name is Georg Friedrich List. He is an economist who developed the national system of political economics and has written his most remembered book, which is the National System of Political Economics. He also believed that import tariffs would stimulate domestic production. After that, List supported the free exchange of domestic goods and rose to prominence as the founder and secretary of the Association of Middle and Southern German industrialists seeking the abolition of tariff barriers within the German states. List also suggests free trade within Germany while championing a high tariff imports of manufactured goods. This now commonly called as infant industry defense of tariff. He disapproved of agriculture because this was an old and mature industry. Not only that, it's also because of the manufacturing required cheap food for labor and cheap raw materials. Last, List spread the idea of stage of economic growth and urged the government to act actively. It will help people who want to move from the lowest to the highest stage against the competition of more advanced nations. Based on his strategic trade theory, Thomas Malthus, which is an economist from classical school, agreed that free international trade can be beneficial to a nation.
Wilhelm Röscher is one of the pioneers of all the historical school was from 87 until 1894. This group wanted to complement classical philosophy while the younger school wanted to replace it with historical studies and political concerns altogether. At Göttingen and later on Röscher became professor of political economy from Leipzig. His 5-volume textbooks took 40 years to complete and was widely used in German schools. Besides that, the true application of the historical method will do away with a great variety of controversies over important issues. Once the natural laws of political economy are well understood and known, all that is required in any given case is more exact and accurate statistics of the fact involved to overcome all party controversies on question of the politics of public economy, so far at least as these controversies come from a difference of opinion. Röscher demonstrated his affinity economic theory. He sought to explore its historical basis rather than despise abstract theory. He believed that an important addition to the classical deductive approach is the analysis of contemporary facts and opinions. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. My name is Siti Razma binti bin Sahun. My number metric is BEB 20110587. Okay, I'm going to present about Gustav Smoller. Okay, he is the lead figure in the Young Historical, and he was a professor of political science at Hallstavik and Berlin. His book, known as Political Economic and Its Method, it was published in 1894, and he was the founder and the major leader of the Associations of Social Policy, okay, which is organize the social legislations and promote the idea of the greater government activity in a social and economic affair. He content of the accumulating history and descriptive objective factual material. He and his follower criticize the separate study of small segment in economic phenomena, and he assumed everything else remained unchanged, and he believed when insulated and fragmented held with the it will cause the uh, essence of economic laws. Okay, and he create a economic based on the basis of historical monograph. Smaller also antagonist to the educative economists, and he also declared that members of a social abstract were unfit to teach in the Germany university. He has three main contributions in German historical school. The first one is the Methodenstreit, and the second one is the social reform, and the third one is protectionism. Okay, his first contribution in the Germany historical school is the Methodenstreit. Okay, it's happened after he contribution with Karl Menger, okay, who is Austria marginalist schools abstract. Okay, it's about the advantage of the inductive and deductive analysis, where both of them oppose with each other opinion on it. Okay, in the end of the Methodenstreit, okay, it's resolved itself. Smaller believe that both method inductive and deductive are important and supplementary to each other. So it's shown that gathering information and development in analysis tool, which is used for the accumulated in the informations, are both important part of gain great economics science. Okay, for example, the pure abstract dedications are without value is a regard the effect of machinery on wage and influence of the production of the ferrous metal on the value of money. This is repeated in and restated in his book Political Economy and Its Method. His second contribution is on the social reform, okay, where Smaller believe that restriction on the ethical value must be encouraged, and okay, where justice in economy must be realized through the paternalistic policy of social reform, which is furthered by the socialist group and the country. Smaller said that the principal guidance of the social reform is a distribution of equalizations in income for everyone in the Germany, and he claimed that social knowledge must be the guidance for the achieving objective on social policy, and it make he want the more historical study or research for establish an empirical basis of national economic theory. Okay, even though Smaller and his student or follower published innumerable massive historical studies, but still they were failed to develop the economic theory. But their contribution still lay in the economic story. For example, in the historical economy, historical economic and the modern philosophy of law have given them their true position by choosing the Germany that the by showing the Germany that the great epoch of the economic progress are primarily connected with the reform of the social institution. The last one, but not least, smaller contribution in the Germany historical school is the protectionism. Okay, he changed his view on the protectionism. Okay, he benchmarked to advocate the free trade in his younger year as a Germany historical figure, and smaller favored protective tariff for the Germany since 1901. Okay. He quoted the Friedrich List and Alexander Hamilton as his mentor or teacher. He also justified the tariff based on List's idea in fact industry agreement, but at the same time he went further than that agreement. Okay, he thinks that the tariff is the one of international's weapon, which is might be benefit German or any country if it used with the right way or method. In addition, he disclaimed that a new era of the protectionism had appeared because some economists and the statement had been unable to understand the superiority of the agreement of the free trade. That's all. Thank you.
One of the major figures of the German historical school is Max Weber. Max Weber was born on 21 April 1864 in Erfurt, First Year, Germany, and he died on 14 June 1920 in Munich, Germany. He established himself in Berlin's legal profession. After he publishing several scholarly works, he became a professor of political economy and sociology at Freiburg and later at Heidelberg and Munich. Max Weber considered himself an intellectual descendant of Müller. He also known as German sociologist and political economist and best known for his thesis of the Protestant ethic, relating Protestantism to capitalism and for its idea on bureaucracy. Weber's profound influence on sociological theory stems from his demand for objectivity in scholarship and from his analysis of the motives behind human action. Next, my partner Rokia would like to talk about Max Weber's contributions.
Next is about the contribution of the Max Weber. Max Weber's most valued contribution to the field of economics lies within the tradition of the younger school and his famous work that is the Protestant ethic and the spirit of capitalism. It discusses the differences between religions and the relative wealth of their followers. Weber's work paralleled Renaissance treatise of the same phenomenon, however located the rise of capitalism in Judaism. Weber acknowledged that capitalist societies had existed prior to Calvinism. Eventually, he argued that cases religious views did not support the capitalist enterprise, but rather limited it. It is only Protestant ethic based on Calvinism actively supported the accumulation of capital as a sign of God's grace. Not only that, Weber's other contributions include his work on the dual roles of idealism and materialism. It was one in his Economy and Society 1914 and his General Economic History 1923, which reflects the historical school at its empirical base. Last but not least, Weber has stated that economics should be broad science, not only covering economics phenomena, but also non-economic phenomena that might influence the economy, that is economically relevant phenomena, and non-economic phenomena to some extent had been influenced by economic phenomena, that is economically conditioned phenomena. The title of this broad type of economics that Weber gave was social economics. He also thought that in this area provided a platform for productive interdisciplinary dialogue between economists and sociologists. That is all for Max Weber contributions. Thank you.